Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on February 14th, 2022 at approximately 6:19 p.m. PST. This world has gone through a lot of interesting challenges in the last couple of years. But in spite of the separation, the segregation, and the forced, what has been, I don't exactly want to call it forced, I don't think, but encouraged isolation. Okay, not to mention encouraged, almost forced, almost forced capitulation. There's been all of these complications that are going on, but people are finally starting to get the message that working together, we can make this a better world for most people. Now, I only came back to this world. My primary reason for coming back to this world at this time was to pass on this message that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. But it is going to take the cooperation and the effort of everybody to do that. With this in mind, okay, I must commend the people that are actually going out of their way to make the necessary changes. And of course, as I've said before, this starts right here. Taking a look in your own heart at what's working in your life, what you're content with, what you're not content with. Now, the things that you are content with, absolutely stay on them. Okay, I've been very fortunate in a lot of ways in finding out, in getting things back on track for me. Okay, getting my life moving in the right direction. But it has been a lot of work. Now, I started out by I got to a point actually about a year ago, I got to a point where where I had hit 246 pounds. I decided I wasn't dealing with that. I wasn't going to break 250. Well, the nice part about it is I stopped before I got there. I am now under 210 and quite happily dropping. So I'm going to continue on that path. Okay, I've managed to get that turned around, solve the other problem, which I never thought I would solve. One of my big goals this lifetime, was to quite seriously take a look at my life and find peace of mind. Well, it turns out that finding peace of mind is not finding out how to fit in with everybody else. How to get other people to accept you. It's figuring out how to come to accept yourself. Okay, when I reached that point, when I finally got to that point and realized that this is where my life is, that this is who I am, this is how my life is going. Okay, when I got to that point, all of a sudden my energy levels started to climb back up. My health started to improve. These are just things that are changing very nicely. But it comes down to one thing, and that is coming to terms with you being you. Okay, a friend of mine years ago coined the phrase, at least the first time I heard it was from him, where he said, literally, to know oneself is to know all. Well, as soon as I came to that understanding, I took a very decided very decided focus on my own health, my own energy levels, my own appearance, a whole 9 yards. Now, the changes I'm making for me are for me. Will other people like them? Who knows? In all fairness, that's not my biggest concern. But you start by looking at you. If there's something you're not content with, doesn't matter what it is. If you're not content with it, it's time to make a change. But even though you can get all the guidance from anybody you choose, myself included, okay, you're the one that's going to have to do the work to make the changes. Now, I do encourage you, when you have big projects, to break those projects down into 15-minute to half-hour jobs where possible. Okay, and that's where this little change came about. Now, I've mentioned this before. This is a very big project of mine. Now, the Birth of the Wolf Pack has been out for about a year, for just about a year now. But this one, which is the sequel, came out just this January. Okay, in all fairness, it went to print in December. But with that in mind, okay, the final of these two books is the final of the trilogy. I'm aiming at the end of this year for. But in order to do that, I had to break it down into smaller jobs. Now, this is an excellent time to take the energy in your world and alter it so that you're more content with it. Okay, a very big issue from your standpoint. Take a look at the way your life is running and really give yourself a hand, really give yourself credit for what you've accomplished. Wherever you've come from, however you got to where you are, the thing to remember is you're in exactly the same position that everybody else is. Okay, you're starting right here, right now. Now, I used to get into debates with my own parents. They'd always ask me, how did you get to where you are? And I had to keep going back to them. Look, if I knew how I got here, I wouldn't keep ending up here. You know, I'm very good at getting lost. Okay, where it comes to physical travel, okay, I have come to the conclusion I've got a sense of direction that is second to none. I've never found somebody with one worse. Okay, well, it turns out the mind works the same way. I can get in my own way very quickly. But when I figured out that the real key to being content is to be content right here. Now, you can go down a lot of different roads, okay, but all of them lead to the same place, the future. Okay, they don't all lead to the same future, by the way, they lead to your future. Now, the easiest way to explain the future is this. If you start at your elbow, okay, from the elbow, we start there as your starting point, as it were. The palm of your hand is the present. So you've got one pass. It comes straight up the arm, okay, until you get to the palm. From the palm, you've got all these different little branches that you can go on. But now you've got control over which one of those paths you choose. They all lead different places. They do not all lead to the same outcome. Okay, they all lead to a different place. But once you take a step onto one of these paths, all the rest are disconnected. You don't get those options anymore. You can no longer go back and start over. You only can start from where you currently are. Okay, so now again, if you think of it this way, the moment you end up on a finger, okay, you've chosen that path. It's kind of like starting here. This is the only road you've got until you hit the future again. So from that standpoint, and I know that's really simplistically explained, okay, and probably more than a little confusing, but if you've got questions or if you've got comments about it, I'd love to hear your comments in the section below. You know, if you like our video, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and absolutely pass this message on to everybody, because it's only going to be through working together that we can change the tide of society into something far more enjoyable. Okay, far more successful for most people. But we cannot go back. You cannot undo what you've already done. You can simply take what you learned from what you did, apply it to your present decisions, and make better choices as you go down the road. But the nice part about it, from my standpoint, is I have noticed that people are spending more time striving to be clear, striving to assist other people in making their life better, in helping other people that are having troubles. Okay, and it's going to be that effort that's going to make things happen. Now, everybody can say what they will about all the conflict and all the problems that the convoy that's going on right now is causing, but something we do have to acknowledge, or at least it makes sense to acknowledge to me. Regardless of why they started, regardless of as to what their intent was, what it has proven beyond a shadow of any functional doubt, okay, is that people from every walk of life, every background, every skin color can work together without bullets, without guns, without knives. They can work together towards a common goal. Now, this is something that is a message that many people would do well to pay attention to. Now, these are people from every religion, every age bracket that's old enough to drive, okay, that have banded together under one common thing. Now, this is a simple reality, okay? It's a simple reality that working together, we can make this a better world. Okay, we've seen it for years in the military. Okay, people are told this is what you need to do, and when they band together with an appropriate leader, they can accomplish miraculous things. Take a look at the people involved in research programs and projects. One person with a very clear view, motivating people without derision, without coercion, without threat, can accomplish so much more by simply communicating, by talking clearly, by being open to each other about what you're feeling, where your actual boundaries are, and absolutely by treating each other as you desire to be treated. Now, I do not blame any individuals. I don't blame the so-called elites because I don't see anybody as an elite. I see people as more adept. I see people as more knowledgeable, more educated, although I do question on the education methods nowadays. I do see people that have far more evolved brains than I've got. Okay, but I do not see them as being better than me or worse than me. We are all of equal value. And this little sign up here, this wooden sign up at the top here, that says, I am worth it. The four most powerful words in combination in any language I've come across, where it comes to helping rebuild or build in the first place, your self-esteem, your sense of self, your motivation, all of these things work together to create a better world. A world where you don't have to look down on yourself and you're encouraged not to look down on other people. Now, of course, there are some people you have no choice but to look down on. And those people are the people that are physically shorter than you, or the ones that are laying down when you're standing up. Sorry, you're going to look down on them. But that's the only functional time to look down on somebody. Sure, there are people that don't know as much as you, that you know more than. But there is always, always, always somebody better. There's always somebody in worse shape. And in my eyes, and the message I keep trying to pass on to people is those of you that have the wherewithal that have more than what you really require, help the ones that are less fortunate. Now, I've always been a staunch supporter of the people that choose to enter the military, the police force, any of the so-called first responders. I've always been a staunch supporter of them because, frankly, they're the ones who put their life on hold voluntarily. Usually they're stepping into that industry in order to protect their own communities, the people around them. Absolutely, I'm a staunch supporter of them. The military wouldn't take me. At 2 years old, they diagnosed me epileptic, and something about epilepsy and automatic weapons, the military doesn't seem to like to pick you up, which for me worked out well. Quite frankly, I'm a pacifist. I will avoid, I do avoid fights regularly. Unfortunately, my mouth is another problem. It can get me into trouble. Thus far, 58 years, aside from physical confrontation with my own family, I've had very little in the way of interaction. Now, many of the tools that I use, my method of turning my own self-esteem around, my method of taking my business and making it work. These tools are tools that I personally use. Okay, now when we take a look at these two little books here, okay, there we are. Believe in yourself and follow your dreams, and believe in your business and follow your dreams. These are both booklets that detail the tools I personally use. This is why when I say I'm a spiritual guide, the tools I offer are ones that I personally put to use. Okay, they are philosophies that I personally live by, and this is why I know they work. That and the fact I've handed them off to literally thousands of people with remarkable side effects. Okay, with remarkable outcomes where their life has transformed. Okay, where they've transformed their own life because they're the ones that pick the tools up and use them. The best carpenter tools in the world are absolutely useless if you don't pick them up to use them. You can be the best carpenter in the world. If you don't pick up tools, nobody will ever know. In my industry, in the psychic industry, my mentor actually put it really, really well. And he says, look, the best psychic on the planet is totally useless to you if nobody knows where you are. Now, where it comes to this set of to the Yldrbacian Chronicles, I have no idea how good it is from my standpoint. From your standpoint, I do know that when the first guy that read the manuscript, this is the birth of the wolf pack, and the gentleman that I handed it to read before I put it to print, his comment was simple to me, and I've only got his word for it, but his comment was very simple. He says, I'm going to read the book, I'm going to read a couple of chapters in the morning and get on with my day. Well, the following morning he got up and he phones me up at noon and he says, I finished the book. Now, this guy obviously reads faster than I do because this thing is only 392 pages long. Okay, if you ignore the appendix and the prologue. Okay, the introduction to it. So you're looking at somewhere in excess of 400 pages. He read it in about 5 hours. I don't expect you to read it that fast. Myself, for me to read a book that fast, that big, I'm usually looking at a month or so. Writing is another story. Okay, but marketing has never been my strong suit. Telling people about what I'm capable of has never been my strong suit. Showing people has only been the only way I did, even when I started working. And you may be in the same boat. How do I put on paper what I'm qualified for? In my case, every job that I had, I did not put in a resume for. In all fairness, the first job I ever got, I didn't put a resume into it until 3 years after I started working there. Okay, so I understand the idea that people find it difficult to express their own qualities. I understand this all too well. However, when you come to realize that the critical priority that you have that really has to be reached is, are you content with you? When you can reach that point, all the rest of it doesn't matter. At least not in my opinion. Of course, that cost me a job one day. I applied for a job at a telephone support line system. And at the time, I had 15 years working on the phone. But I made a mistake. When I went to the interview, they asked me for what was important, and I looked at them and I said, look, all of these things are important, but the reality of it is, for me, if I'm not content with my work, it does not matter to me how content you are with it. Okay. So with this in mind, when I started writing this, the idea was real simple for me. And that was that I desired the book to portray the story I was aiming at telling. If it worked out that it made me a lot of money, that would be great, because I would love to be making my money at just writing. Right now, that's not the case. But every one of these books that I've shown you, okay, every single one of them, I've got in stock. Okay, now if you look at the bottom of this video, you'll find a whole list of different books I've already got printed. Okay, that I've got in stock. that can be ordered directly from me. Now, others, some of them are showing up on Amazon now. Both the Birth of the Wolf Pack and The End of an Epoch, which are both novels that run back to back, are available at authorhouse.com and on Amazon, as well as Indigo and a few other places. Okay. From me, you only get paperback. Signed, but you only get paperback. Okay. On the net, they do come out in the Kindle version. Okay. Now, am I looking to sell them? Absolutely. But the much more important factor from my standpoint is this is a project I started when I was only 15 years old. And I kept pushing at it and finally got it into print. I'll tell you, there's no feeling that I can compare to picking a major project and working at it for time, years, really putting the effort into it, and then finally seeing it come to fruition. Okay, in a sense, now I can speak to you forever about writing. Artwork, well, I can draw a stick man falling down a staircase, landing in a carburetor. I'm really good at it. Okay, but I'm certainly not the person that is to tell you how to go about drawing more effectively. I don't have the practical background for it. Okay, but that set of books, I've been role-playing now for 45 years. Still actively role-playing once or twice a week. Okay, and with that in mind, that keeps my imagination going. Of course, you have to look at the fact that I'm a role player. So I use my imagination all the time. I am a science fiction, science fantasy author, and I've been working in the metaphysical field and the UFO field for years. I just about said centuries, which actually isn't entirely incorrect. I remember past lives. But what this all boils down to is, and the reason I'm laying this out for you, is because when you look at it, when you take a look at that, if somebody's going to tell you this is the way to do something, make certain they're doing it. Make certain they're doing it well. Okay? I do not talk in terms of, gee, let's fear everything around you. Okay, I've seen some people claim that they are here to pass on this special message to lead you to the light. I'm not here to lead you to the light. I'm here to simply help you get mobilized so you can move to whatever you're aiming for. But I'm certainly not going to pack around a gun, or for that matter, a knife, and try and tell you you have to go this way. I'm not going to make some sort of law that says you've got to do this or you get punished. No, you'll punish yourself if you don't follow your own heart. I mean, it was said really nicely. When your head and your heart are in conflict, follow your heart, but use your head to get there. And this is the message that I am here to tell you. Now, I only follow 3 laws. Okay, I only follow 3 laws in life. Believe and be true to yourself first. Do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. And energy out, energy in. Now, if you compare that to the laws and the guidelines that you live by, I do believe you'll find that every one of the laws and guidelines you live by, regardless of where they come from, will fit into those 3 laws. If not, if you find one that doesn't, absolutely drop me a line in the comments below and let me know. I am looking for that one possible thing that derails the whole system. Okay. Much like I've been told very clearly, where it comes to my memories of past lives, watch for the one that derails your whole thesis. Okay, if you're a scientist, okay, and you're doing research, you start off with a theory, and you keep testing that theory with everything possible until it either holds up or it doesn't. Now, here's another neat little thing. Okay, a century ago, roughly, Einstein came up with the theory of relativity. Okay, now my understanding is what he dumped on the scientific world was E equals mc squared. Okay, And if I'm mistaken of that, absolutely, somebody drop me a line. I'm not exactly the most well-educated individual, but I did find a slightly different version of it. The theory of relativity that I came to understand, is 1 plus 1 equals 3. It is not a mathematical equation. Can I explain it? Absolutely. And in all likelihood, I will take the time to do that in the next couple of days here. But it does permeate everything. It's very much like people talk about this idea of pyramid schemes. Okay, and it's set up like a pyramid, therefore it's illegal. Bad news. All of society is built on a pyramid scheme. The whole thing is built on pyramids. Okay, now, if they were so bad, why would all of society be built that way? Even when we look at, when you look at the pyramid, you're looking at 3 points. Even if you're Christian and you look at the 3 points, you've got Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. You still got the 3. There's, the top, and then it works its way down. Okay, same applies to business. You've got the owner, works its way down until you got the flunkies on the floor. But the reality is the flunkies on the floor, if you're a broom pusher, hats off to you. You're the guys doing the work that are making the people at the top the money. And I have come to the conclusion the people that are working the hardest are seldom the people making the money. Okay, now in reality, I've got no functional interest in money except for I hate the concept of living on the street. I really hate the idea of being hungry. So I have to work with money, but we have to realize the money itself, or the fear of it, or the abuse of it, or whatever, is not the problem. Money itself is simply a barter system. Okay, and I personally find it a lot easier and a lot less complicated to carry a $10 bill with me or to carry a credit card in today's world than I ever did to turn around and try and force a cow, a dog, or a cat, or for that matter, a chicken around the road. So much easier. It is simply another agreed upon barter system. Okay, now am I going to try and explain how that all came about? Not a prayer. All I know is it did. All I know for certain is that it did. But I also know that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. With this in mind, since I keep these to the half-hour mark, I'm going to let you go for tonight, and I will be back again tomorrow. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.